Welcome to the Nerdstalgic Podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Howdy beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Nerdstalgic Podcast with me, your host, Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well, hope you're good, as per usual. Before I get into today's topic, a bit of housekeeping. And in today's housekeeping is the same housekeeping as always, because I like to keep my house very, very clean and tidy. So make sure that you follow me on Twitter at Nerdstalgic Podcast to be kept up to date on anything that I am doing, watching, playing, reading, and all that jazz. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out immensely. If you have subscribed, don't forget to ring that notification bell in the corner so you get notified whenever I release a new episode of the podcast every single Sunday. So that's the housekeeping done, because I like to keep my house clean. Today's topic is I'm going to be looking at another license-based video game. You didn't think that I was going to end the year without doing another one of these, did you? I know it's been a long time. I had planned, I still got a huge stack of Xbox 360 video games that I wanted to go through and play this year. But I have been so busy, I have been so caught up that I haven't had the opportunity to actually get my 360 out, plug it all in, and to play it, especially how majority of these games, because they're license-based games, they're not backwards compatible on the Series X. So I have to pull out the 360, dust off the old girl, plug her in, and hopefully she decides to work. So I haven't been able to do that, sadly. But luckily for me, Chicken Little, which is today's topic, which we'll get into in a minute, is backwards compatible. It was made backwards compatible, I think, near to the end of last year, with the last dump of backwards compatible games that Xbox decided to put onto their system before they just abandoned the program altogether, which I still say to this day is a complete shame, because there's so many games on the 360 that deserve to be backwards compatible. But that's neither here nor there. So it's been a time since the last one I did. The last one I did was in the 2nd of April, which was SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, the rehydrated edition, which went really, really well. A lot of people seem to like it. So I figured I'm currently recording this in October, but it's getting closer to the end of the year. I had planned to review Starfield, but after fully completing that game, I've put 3 days worth of time into that game. I've done all the main quests. I've done all the faction quests. I've done everything you can. Basically, all the other achievements and stuff is all just busy work, like making outposts and all that kind of stuff. But I've done everything that game is to give me, and I had planned to do a review. But when I looked at my schedule and I realised that if I do a Starfield review, then I'll have to do Lives of P, and then I won't have any room for today's topic, Chicken Little. And I really wanted to play it, and I really wanted to get it out as a one last sort of hoorah, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, for next year, Season 3, I can do a lot more license-based games. So that's what we're getting today. So we're looking at Chicken Little from 2005. I'm playing the Xbox original version, so it's not for the Xbox 360, sorry. I'm playing the Xbox original version. That came out in Europe in January the 6th, 2006. It came out actually in North America first on October the 18th, 2005. Chicken Little is a 2005 action-adventure game developed by Avalanche Studios for the GameCube, Microsoft Windows, Xbox, PlayStation 2, and by Artificial Mind and Movement for the GBA Game Boy Advanced. Both were published by Buena Vista Games, which was a subset of Disney, which ended up becoming Disney Interactive Studios, which is now closed. It closed down in 2016, sadly. Was something based on the 2005 film Chicken Little. The plot of the game follows the same plot as the film Chicken Little. The game also features the original actors reprising their roles in the game, except for Joanne Cusack, who plays Abby, Don Knotts, who plays Mayor Turkey Lurkey, who are replaced by Pamela Adlon and Jeff Bennett, respectively. As for the gameplay, this is what it says on Wikipedia, I don't know, I haven't played the game yet. Chicken Little is an action-adventure game. The player takes control of Chicken Little. Occasionally, the player is able to play as Abby, Runt, and Fish out of water in 6 different levels. Major, Turkey, Lurkey in 1 level. The player has to collect 5 baseball cards throughout each level of the game. The cards unlock special bonus mini-games in multiplayer mode. I won't be playing the multiplayer because most more than likely that multiplayer is dead now. There was a sequel game titled Chicken Little Ace in Action, which was released for the PlayStation 2, Nintendo DS, and Wii on November the 9th, 2006. I have seen the sequel. Sadly, the sequel is not backwards compatible. Unlike this one, it's not backwards compatible. But I have thought, my 360 is backwards compatible, so it might be worth seeing if I can get Chicken Little 2 on the Xbox and see if I can play it there. Because the reason they made a sequel, and this is a bit of knowledge that I know that it isn't here on Wikipedia, is the fact that there was going to be a plan for a Chicken Little 2, and it was going to be sort of Ace in Action. It was going to follow the Ace character. But because Chicken Little didn't do very well at the box office, and it's not widely loved at the time, I think I quite enjoy it, to be honest. I really liked the Chicken Little movie. Always have, always will do, always will, always have. But because the movie didn't do very well, it didn't get the sequel, but the game was made anyway. Same with The Incredibles 2. Before the actual Incredibles 2 movie, there was an Incredibles 2 video game that came a year after the movie. I think it was called Incredibles 2 Rise of the Underminer, and it was a co-op game where you could play as Mr. Incredible and Frozone. I've heard not great things about it, to be honest. It's well, you could call it a cash grab, but I don't really comment because I've never played it. But that is Chicken Little. As for the actual studio itself, so this studio, Avalanche Studios, you might recognize the name. They're mostly known nowadays for the people that did the incredibly fantastic job with Hogwarts Legacy, which I still haven't played, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. But this studio fascinates me because a lot of all the other studios that I've looked at that have done license-based games, these are one of the most prevalent license-based video game companies there is. Because looking at the games that they have made, they're all licensed. Like they don't seem to own any of these licenses. It's all just like, well, we did it for other people, for other studios. So you have so from 1996, you had Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, 2-on-2 on Ice Challenge, 1997 Mortal Kombat Mythologies, 1998 Off-Road Challenge, 1999 Rampage 2, NBA Showtime, 2000 Rampage Through Time, Rugrats in Paris the movie, which fantastic film. I didn't even know there was a video game on it. Then they didn't do anything in 2002. You got Rugrats Ransom. 2003, Tak the Power of Juju, which I love. Tak the Power of Juju. I love the TV show. Never played the video game, and I'm really hoping that one day THQ Nordic decide to reboot the Tak series or just remaster them all, because I want to play those games so bad. They did, and then 2004, you had Tak 2, The Staff of Dreams. 2005, Tak the Great Juju Challenge. Dragon Ball Z Sagas and Chicken Little. 2006, 25 to Life, and then Chicken Little Ace in Action. 2007, Meet the Robinsons, which they did do the 360 version of that, which I reviewed here on the podcast. I knew I recognised them. And then in 2007, they did Hannah Montana Spotlight World Tour. 2008, they did Bolt, which I've also played on the 360, which is not a bad game. It's just very repetitive. Like, it's very button mashy, but it's a fantastic game to play. They also did the fantastic, incredible, one of the best license-based games I've ever played. 2010, Toy Story 3, which you haven't played Toy Story 3. Go out and find yourself a copy. It's backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X. Go play it. It's the campaign itself is not just amazing, but the whole toy box system in that game, where like you can just make your own little world with little toys, and there's tons of challenges, and it just puts hours and hours onto the game. And generally, it is the best license-based video game I've ever played. And then in 2011, they did Cars 2, which I played. That was backwards compatible, a lot of fun. Then they went down a bit of a dark hole And I don't blame them for this. I blame Disney for this one because you could tell from like 2005 they started to do strictly Disney games, and I think that's because they were procured by Disney. Yeah, on April the 9th, not the 19th, 2005, Bureau Vista Games, later renamed Disney Interactive, the video game publishing arm of Walt Disney Company, announced that it had acquired Avalanche for an undisclosed price. Bureau Vista Games established a sister studio to Avalanche, Full Line Studio, in November 2006. The studio merged into Avalanche in January 2009. In January 2013, Avalanche unveiled the Toys to Life cross-platform Disney Infinity, and on May the 10th, 2016, due to a lack of growth in the Toys to Life market and increasing development costs, Disney discontinued Disney Infinity and closed down Disney Interactive Studios, including Avalanche. Many former Avalanche workers were hired by Cast AR to create a new studio in Salt Lake City. So yeah, they didn't do very well in the whole Disney Infinity, and it's whole Games to Life. Activision started it with the Skylanders, and then Lego got into it, and then Disney had to get involved because that sweet Toys to Life money, and you had Amiibos, and it was just a whole waste of plastic, really. But yeah, they did Disney Infinity, and then they did Disney Infinity 2.0 2014, and they did Disney Infinity 3.0 2015, which then it all went down the pan. And then the final Disney game they made before they went on hiatus and they focused mainly for like Warner Brothers and doing the Harry Potter game. The last Disney game they did was Cars 3 Driven to Win, which is another fantastic game on the Xbox One, which again I highly recommend getting that game, especially if you love kart racing. It's a lot of fun, great for achievements. Can't recommend it enough. And then obviously their most recent game in 2023 was Hogwarts Legacy, which I still haven't played, but they have done a lot of licensed video games, and you can tell by the time they get to Hogwarts Legacy, they know what they're doing, they know how to handle a license, and they do an absolutely fantastic job of it. And I can't wait to get around to playing that one. But yeah, Avalanche Studios are really interesting studios. It says here, on January the 24th, 2017, Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, now Warner Brothers Games, announced that it had acquired and reopened the studio, with Blackburn returning as its chief executive officer. The studio's first title under the new ownership was Cars 3 Driven to Win. Hogwarts Legacy was released in 2023 on Avalanche as Avalanche's first independent game since it was acquired by Warner Brothers. The open-world action role-playing game was published by the publisher Portkey Games, which is also owned by Warner Brothers Games. So obviously Warner Brothers saw how well and how fantastic Avalanche Studios are at making license-based games, because they are. A lot of the games that I've played of theirs have been a lot of fun, especially if they're Disney ones. I've enjoyed them all. As you know, I've reviewed Meet the Robinsons, and I spoke quite highly of it. I played Bolt. Yes, it's very repetitive and button mashing, but it's very fun. Cars 2, fantastic. Cars 3 was just as fantastic. They turned a bad Cars movie into a decent game. So obviously Warner Brothers saw, again, this is all speculation on my part, but Warner Brothers saw how much of a good asset they were, obviously realised how much of a stupid decision Disney made, and decided to buy the studio, buy their rights, and bring back the team, and got them working on Hogwarts Legacy, and it panned out perfectly for Disney. I mean, for Warner Brothers, the amount of money they've made off not just Harry Potter in general, but off that game is incredible. So people at Avalanche Studios should definitely be proud of themselves. Really should do. But yeah, I just wanted to mention the studio. But that's everything. That's everything with the introduction. I'm going to go off now and play the game. And when I come back in a few seconds for you guys, and hopefully maybe in a week or two myself when I actually finish the game, I'll review it. So without further ado, you lucky beans get to hear my review now. I have to wait. But let's get into it, shall we? Right, so I've not long finished this game. To be honest, this game, it's not very long at all. I recorded the intro to this episode on the 7th of October, and I completed the game within the same day. Quite possibly the fastest game completion I've ever had for this podcast. And possibly as well the quickest game completion I've had in general. Again, that could be down to the fact of, tooting my own horn here, that I'm a highly skilled gamer nowadays at 25, all that, this is a very easy game. Both are true, and both could be possible at the same time. But yeah, it's not a very, very long game. I completed it in the same day. I generally thought, because again, with license-based games, I've mentioned this before in the other reviews that I've done. There's a lot of padding. There's a lot of fluff. There's always a lot of, because some of them follow the movies and those that don't, just to prolong the experience. They add in mini games and things like that, and it just really tedious, and the difficulty ramps up a lot for no apparent reason and all that jazz. With this game, not really. It asks you, if you want to pick your difficulty, but even then, I didn't. When I decided to from playing easy, then I started to play hard because I realized how quick I was going through the game. Nothing really seemed to change. There was never any spurt of difficulty. It was just the fact of one set piece to the next. 1 minute, I am. Like the game starts and Chicken Little, and you have like a really bad compressed audio and footage from the movie where dad drops him off and says, "Please don't make a fool of yourself." And then he missed the school bus, and now he's got to chase the school bus, and we all know that sort of scene from the movie. And then quickly, the game starts, and it gives you the basics of how to platform and how to do some of the special things that he can do. He has a yo-yo to attack things, and he can also use that yo-yo to attach himself to poles, and kind of like peck his way up poles and then slide on zip lines and that sort of thing. It gives you the basics, and then once you've got the basics, then you have another platforming sort of segment where it's like, okay, now you've know the basics. You've now got to find 10 quarters. Or 10 cents. I'm not American, so I'm guess they're both the same thing, possibly. I don't know. But let's just say quarters. It's easy. You got to find 10 quarters. They're all hidden around in one area around the school. You find them, then you can get your soda bottle. So you do that, you get your 10 quarters, get the soda bottle. Then you make your way inside the school, and then from there, you've you basically, instead of like in the movie, Chicken Little goes through the window, he gets locked in his cupboard, and then it cuts on them playing dodgeball. In this one, it's the fact of Chicken Little comes down, he's still attached to the soda bottle, and he's now running amok. Really, he's uncontrollable, going through the halls, and you've got to dodge people. And again, you got these little. It's like the trench scene from Star Wars, which I know is an odd way to compare it. But you've got to dodge things, you've got to go around, you've got to jump over. For some unknown reason, there are loads of lockers that are just falling around, and there's water stains everywhere. And it's probably the longest hallway. Like, this hallway was designed by the same bloke who designed the runway from that Fast and Furious movie. It's probably one of the longest hallways ever. And also, as we get through the game, and when we get to do this hallway again, when we're being chased by Goosey Lucy, I think her name is, all of a sudden, that, even though you go in one straight line, somehow wraps around back to the sports hall that you've just ran from. But the point I'm trying to make is it's beat for beat. So once you have the platforming, you get a bit of a mini game, a bit tedious here and there, but it's a very quick one. It's one after the other, and every time you finish a section, the game will task you, do you want to save? And obviously it does get a bit annoying, the whole constant in your face of, do you want to save, do you want to save, do you want to save? But I get it, it's a kid's game. It probably could be quite difficult, so the kid might be like, oh, it took me a while to finish that one section, I'm going to save because I don't want to do it all over again. Or the fact of, that was really hard, I want to take a break. These many things that could be possible, but overall it's not a very long game, and I managed to complete it within a day. Again, it could be the fact of this, I'm really very skilled. I've got to the point now where I'm a highly qualified gamer. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just getting better at these license-based games. That could be possible too. But yeah, I don't know. As a kid, if I'd had this game and I managed to complete it within a day, I would have been disappointed because, again, as I've mentioned many times before, these license-based games, there's not a lot to them, so they are deliberately difficult to make them, because for a lot of kids this is probably the only game they would get for the whole year or a good few months before they'd get another one. So knowing that you'd complete it within a day is a bit disappointing. You come downstairs and you say to your dad, I completed it, and then your dad will be like, well, I've just bought you that now, I'm not buying you another one. So now you're stuck with having to replay Chicken Little over and over again. it's a bit of a bummer in that respect, but what can you do? You know what I mean? It's a kids' game from 2005. Some of them were long, I guess. Some of them were short. This is one of the short ones. But that aside, it's a fun little platformer that follows, like I said, the plot of the movie. We've added in mini games as fluff. There's like a Space Invaders mini game. There is a I'm trying to remember some of the mini games. There is a baseball mini game, which is it's kind of like best like Rock Band and Guitar Hero, that sort of thing. You have to click the certain buttons like A, X, Y, or B in a certain pattern. And if you do that in a certain pattern, and if you don't get 3 strikes, you have potentiality of getting a home run. And like the baseball mini game is quite cool because again, it not only just links in with obviously the film, but also the fact it's a fun little mini game, and it does get quite difficult. It does get quite quick, and having the best to hit the notes at the right time is a lot of fun. And then you have driving mini games, which you'd be playing as Pig, and Pig's driving around, and then you're meant to be going to Chicken Little's house. Then Fish is like, "Oh, I want to go do this," and then, oh, what's her name now? Uh, oh, the duck lady that Chicken Little was in love with. I can't remember her name. I remember all the other characters' name, but her name evades me. But her, she's like, oh, well, I want to go get this one back. So you're against the clock. It's kind of reminded me of like when you're against the clock playing Simpsons Hit and Run. Well, you've got to go from one side of the town to the next in a small little area. Not hard. You get a lot of time. Again, this game isn't difficult. I was like, at many moments, I was expecting the difficulty to ramp up. There were many moments where I was sitting there going, "It's going to get hard now. It's going to get difficult." It doesn't, and I'm not knocking it for it. I'll be honest with you, I'm just surprised that it doesn't. There's no real big sort of, oh, that was difficult. Tedious, yes. Unfair at times, a bit, but not overly what I would call difficult. Just tedious, and there is a huge difference between difficult and tedious. Tedious you can get through with just perseverance, where difficulty is a fact of it's just unfair at times when it just ramps up out of nowhere. And again, the whole idea that you just gotta push on through, and eventually you'll get through that difficulty. The better you get, and the more you play. But yeah, fun little platformer with a lot of mini games. The platforming and gameplay really hit me in my childhood. Really took me back to when I was a young being. Pure nostalgia of how games used to be and the types of games that I used to play growing up. As I've said many times by doing these reviews, I grew up with license-based games. They were like a safe bet in my family. It was a fact of I don't get many video games. My dad was a big gamer, but even though he was a big gamer, he never got many video games, and the games that he got were again like Gears of War and Halo and that sort of thing, which was great. I'm not knocking them. I love Gears of War. I love Halo. But it'd be rare that my dad would get a video game. That is the point I'm trying to get at. Whereas whenever I'd always go for the safe bet, which would be a license-based game, because I've watched the show or watched the movie, I've liked it and enjoy it, so I want to play that world, play that character, and experience that story at home. So it took me right back to my childhood, the platforming and the way those games used to be, how they used to work, the mechanics. It was a lot of fun. And it was a shame. Again, it come back to the length of it because it was so short that by the time I was really getting into it and enjoying it, it was over. So it's a lot of fun in terms of the nostalgia. And if you are looking for that nostalgia, if you're looking for that sort of licensed game to play to take you back to when you were younger, I can't recommend sort of Chicken Little enough because it does it sort of, in my opinion, quite perfectly. One of the things that gets me though is the fact of because they don't make them like they used to. I feel more platformers are needed in modern gaming spaces because you do get platformers, but you get Mario or you get Sonic nowadays, and that's all you seem to get in terms of modern platformers. Like you get Crash Bandicoot when they did the Insane Trilogy and About Time sequel. Those were great, but then they came and they went. You don't really hear much if there's any more going on with them. Again, same with Spyro with the Reignited Trilogy. Great, played it, loved it. Again, they came, they went. So you don't get many platformers nowadays. It's mainly the indie scene that you get many platformers. But in terms of the big budget games, you don't see them as much as you used to. because platformers used to be everywhere. And I feel like not just Xbox in general, but I mean like gaming in general would benefit greatly from some high sort of quality platforming games. Maybe try different things different. Try different mechanics and features, or different art styles and that sort of thing. I would love. I love the idea of Cuphead. I'll be honest with you, I will never buy Cuphead, even though I love the idea behind it, the theme, the art, the whole hand drawn animation. As all you beans know, I love that sort of thing. Um, I love everything about that series. But would I ever play that game? No, because it's difficult, and I don't tend to buy difficult games because I know that I'd get frustrated, and then I would just get tons of regret knowing that I paid money for a game that I'm never going to play. I'll get buyer's remorse like crazy. So to save me that anxiety, I just don't bother. But I would love a game that was done in the style of Cuphead, or even by the same people, that wasn't so difficult, but has the platforming and that sort of thing. Because those are the sort of games that I grew up on, because every sort of platforming game, majority of licensed place games had platforming genes in them because they were easy to make. Or you'd have games that would have open world, but it'll be busy work and that sort of thing. And I feel like the license genre, even though it's somewhat dead, it's alive, but it isn't at the same time. Bringing back that whole trying something new, trying something different, because these license-based games, they tried something different. They were always doing something different. Not all of them, but a lot of them tried to be something different. They tried to take the spin of the platformer and do something with it in the confines of the film, the technology or setting of the film series or whatever. And there were many times when I was playing Chicken Little that I was reminded when I played Charlie and Chocolate Factory on the PlayStation 2. That game, a lot of fun, but incredibly tedious. But that was a lot of fun sort of game, and I just kept getting flashbacks every now and then of certain things that this game would do. That I was like, oh, I remember that from this licensed game. I remember it from that licensed game, and I missed that game, and I haven't played that game in so long, and it really brought it home for me. Of like, I miss platforming games, and that I want to see more of them, and hopefully we do as sort of the genre goes on. Fingers crossed. I'm looking at THQ, and then hopefully when Xbox settles the deal with Activision, they do more with Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and all the other licenses that Activision has, and brings back a lot of the old platforming and all the other old sort of series there. But that's all sort of he said, when and where we don't know as to yet. But I've got tons of copium running through my veins, and hopefully, with all the copium and all the hope, that will happen one day. But yeah, Chicken Little, not much to say. Like, I'll be honest with you, I have waffled on intentionally for certain parts because there's not a lot to say about this game. Because my overall thoughts, if I'm being honest, is despite me moaning here and there, it's an alright game. It's nothing special. Like, it's special to me because it made me feel that nostalgia of my childhood. But there's nothing about it where I would say this is a diamond in the rough, or it's an underrated gem, or it's perfect, or anything like that. Like, it's nothing like that. It's just for what it is and what it does. It's all right. It does what it sets out to do quite well. It is a lot of fun. If you're like me and you love nostalgia and you grew up playing games like this, it'd be perfect for you. But it's all right. But that's okay. It's nothing wrong being an okay game, or just okay, or just being all right. Sometimes all right is enough. And for this game, all right is enough for Chicken Little. I wasn't expecting anything crazy. I didn't get anything crazy, so I wasn't upset. It was just all right, and it works. There's no glitches, there's no bugs, there's no problems or anything like that. I was able to play the game from start to finish in a day with no issues. It was a lot of fun. The only real things I would say is, like I said, it can be tedious at times with the mini games, especially one of the end bosses when you get to the very end and you're flying a ship. You've as Chicken Little, you have like two, or I think 3 or 4 moments where you get to play a space simulator while on the spaceship, and it is very much like kind of like what's that game now? It's like, again, it's like Space Invaders, but at the same stage, it's also kind of like going through the trenches in Star Wars, that sort of thing. And you do that about 3, 4 times, and then at the very, very end, you fight a big boss. And this boss has 3 health bars, well, 1 health bar, but cut into 3 sections. And you have to dodge loads of uncommon sort of obstacles at this and projectiles while also firing directly at this one point, and it just takes ever because you're just pressing that fire button constantly and you don't get any help. There's no sort of power-ups you can pick up like health or shields or rapid fire and anything like that. At this one battle, it is generally like shoot, 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 dodge. It's like Dark Souls. You can only shoot one or two, hit 1 or 2 times, and then you've got to dodge out the way. Then you've got to get back, shoot, shoot, shoot this one little area, then dodge. It's very tedious, and you've got to do that 3 times. And each one of these guns that you've got to shoot, right, has a different firing method, a different way of shooting. And I was, to be honest, if I wasn't doing this for a review, I would have rage quit. The game probably would have defeated me at that stage because it's very tedious. I managed to do it eventually, but I was thinking that was probably the only part where I really felt that the game was really padding out. Where like we're at the last few minutes of the game, like you're about to complete the game. Let's just make this end as long as possible, so it makes the game feel longer. That was the only bit of padding. Like I don't know if it was the developers who was like, oh god, this game's really quick and really easy. Let's just make the final like boss really difficult. I don't know. That's just what it felt like. And I was just when I got through it, a bit more platform and then done. Yeah, like I said, apart from it being tedious, and also the camera is really annoying. It's not responsive at all. That like it feels inverted at times. Like if you point left, the camera will go right. If you point the analog stick to the right, he will look left. Sometimes the camera doesn't always turn all the way around. So when you have to run somewhere, you have to turn the camera then run. It's kind of hard to do without showing. It's just very awkward at times. But apart from all those sort of things, again, if you're looking for something that is fun and quick and full of nostalgia, and this one is for you, if you do want to play this game, I recommend you play it on an Xbox, as it's backwards compatible. I think it's only like £8.49, so it's quite cheap considering if you go anywhere else, like online, if you're looking for a physical version of this game, you're looking at highest I could find was about 25 quid. I think CEX here in the UK they sell it for a tenner. So cheapest place I could find it was digital on the Xbox store. 8 quid. Yeah, you'll have for some people it might be worth it, some people not, but because again, because how short it is, I can't recommend it for that price. But again, it's the cheapest place I can find it. So if you are interested, I would recommend playing on the Xbox, because Xbox has a thing with their backwards compatible games, either on the 360 or original Xbox games. They've all been upscaled to run at higher frames and to have better quality, run a lot smoother, look smoother, and this game really benefits from that. It looks gorgeous at times. There are moments where I had to stop because the like Chicken Little model looked really, really good at times. The animations run a lot smoother. The animations in general in this game are really, really good, especially for Chicken Little, how he moves. And like, for example, in the film, when Chicken Little goes around a corner, because he's so small, he uses momentum to propel himself around corners. So in the film, he'll run around a corner instead of just turning like a normal person would. He would jump on the one leg around the corner, and he would jump on that one leg, go around, and use that momentum to kind of slingshot himself. He does that in the game. The animation, if you was to like go forwards and then decide to turn Chicken Little to the right or left really quickly, he would jump on the one leg to the side and then run that in that direction. It's a small little detail that I noticed, but it runs so smooth, the animations do, and it just looks a lot more gorgeous. So if you do want to play this game, and if I've managed to make you feel nostalgic for playing a game like this, then yeah, I would recommend going and checking this one out on the Xbox because of all the benefits you get, and it's the cheapest place you find this game. Because a physical copy of it would set you back more than what you'd want to play for a game this short. So that's my overall thoughts. Chicken Little, it's all right. It's not a bad game. I do recommend it, but only to play on the Xbox. And yeah, that's about it, really. So, thank you very, very much for listening to my review of Chicken Little, the video game, for the original Xbox that I played on the Xbox Series X. I had a lot of fun with this one. It's an alright game, but it's not a bad thing. It's not really, really a bad thing. But thank you very, very, very much. I've been your host, Luke the Human. You've been listening to the Nerdstalgic Podcast. If you'd like to hear more from me or the Nerdstalgic Podcast, you can follow me on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and share with your friends. That will help immensely. Also, you can find the Nerdstalgic Podcast anywhere that you'll find podcasts. The only place you won't find me is Apple Podcasts. And that's it, really. So, without further ado, I'm going to go off and play some Gotham Knights because it's now on Game Pass. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.